The first 43 years. The Big Bang.
I have a dream today.
While Martin Luther King is giving his famous speech in Washington in 1963, Gerhard Sturm and Heinz Ziel have a great idea. They found Elektrobaumulfingen, or EBM for short. This Big Bang sees a crew of 35 people on board. Only 2 years later, in 1965, while the great statesman Sir Winston Churchill is laid to rest in London, EBM receives the first large order in its history. NEF commissions 500,000 of the newly developed 68 motors. The most famous non-goal of all times results in England winning the Football World Cup for the first time. And soon after, EBM starts its sales activities in France, while Dr. Christian Barnard performs the first heart transplantation in Cape Town in 1967. While Nixon is getting further and further embroiled in the Watergate affair, and Germany wins the Football World Cup for a second time in 1974, the first immigrant workers from Greece and Yugoslavia arrive in Mulfingen to help EBM coping with ever-increasing orders. In Niederstetten, EBM starts to assemble fans using the factory of Elektro Schmidt and develops the first compact fan in EC technology. In 1975, the first attempts are made to conquer the market in the United Kingdom. EBM grows and turns into an important employer in the Hohenlohe region. By now, more than 500 people work at EBM. And in 1978, the first products are sold in Italy. No sooner have the 80s begun than the first sales activities are started in Australia. And a year later, EBM founds its first subsidiary in the USA. Closer to home, in Niederstetten, an EBM plant for 200 workers is built, while IBM launches the personal computer. AEG is broken up, and EBM has to suffer a hard time. Despite all this, a new subsidiary is founded in South Africa. Meanwhile, EBM has a staff of more than 1,000 people, and Mikhail Gorbachev is made General Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, ending the Cold War with his programmatic Glasnost and Perestroika. Papst in St. Georgen launches the first IC-controlled fan, and 1 year later, starts serial production of spindle motors for dynamic mass storage. In 1988, the EBM magazine EBM Aktuell, EBM News for friends and members of the EBM family is published for the first time, and the whole world is singing, "Don't worry, be happy." And the same year sees the first activities with Nadi in India. 4 years after Mikhail Gorbachev assumed power, border guards of the GDR opened the Berlin Wall on November the 9th, 1989. In Landshut, the then SEL, later named MVL, is the first ever manufacturer to supply an EC centrifugal blower for the new gas condensing heating technology. The next decade starts off well. Germany is world champion in football for the third time, and in 1992, EBM takes over Papst Motoren GmbH in St. Georgen. The same year sees the production start in the Czech Republic. Thomas Filipiak, who masterminded the takeover of Papst Motoren, assumes the post of managing director at EBM in 1993. In 1994, EBM begins to produce in Hungary, where Papst has facilities already. Nelson Mandela becomes president of South Africa. In 1996, EBM ventures into China. In 1997, EBM takes over MVL in Landshut, together with their joint venture with Rotomatica in Slovenia. And the Mars probe Pathfinder gets the first man-made motorized vehicle to the surface of Mars. In 1998, France wins the Football World Cup for a change. To make up for this, EBM launches the first centrifugal and axial fans with integrated line voltage on the market. The start of the new millennium, and Papst sets new standards with the first programmable fan in the world. But then, the terrorist attacks of September the 11th changed the world. Ground Zero is the global epitome of blank horror. The same year sees the expansion of the Niederstetten plant, and Gerhard Storm's dream of manufacturing large EC fans is taking shape. The euro as a common currency is introduced in 12 European countries. EBM terminates the joint venture with Rotomatica and sets up a production of its own in Slovenia, creating 400 jobs. The year is 2002. In 2003, the Chinese succeed in sending a man into space. From up there, he witnesses an important event. EBM, MVL and Papst now have a joint brand name, ebmpapst. 2005 is quite a turbulent year. Germany does not become football world champion, yet it is Pope, according to a headline in the biggest German daily paper. ebmpapst Landshut develops the revolutionary NRG 118 gas blower with the smallest possible dimensions and optimal acoustic performance. And Ziel Abeg discontinues the cooperation with the ebmpapst. Taking an incredibly short time to develop, the first large AC fans in the history of ebmpapst support and round off the comprehensive product range offered by ebmpapst. And, well, Italy wins the Football World Cup, but Germany becomes world champion of the hearts, hosting the most wonderful and inspired 4-week party for the football world. Totally unimpressed by this, 3 robots take up the production of large axial fans in Niederstetten and make this an impressive demonstration of tomorrow's production technology. This is what, in the course of 43 years, has come of one idea shared by 2 entrepreneurs and a staff of 35 committed people. A globally active enterprise, employing 8,600 members of staff throughout the world, and generating close to €1 billion in sales, having 730 registered copyrights and more than 300 patents and petty patents worldwide. The next chapter waits to be written. As leading innovator in a dynamic and competitive global market, ebmpapst is ready to meet the challenges of tomorrow with the best ideas, the best employees, and a team spirit that is unrivaled. Let the future begin. Everything is possible.